So last night, we know the big game that happened last night that everybody was looking forward to in week 10. It was pretty much the main matchup, the main marquee matchup yesterday that a lot of people were looking forward to. And my lord, did it disappoint. It was one of the most lousiest games of the week. I mean, and Ari Mariov, the guy who he follows the football on Twitter, and he was like, yeah, primetime games, Denver in week 10, Denver Raiders 10-7, Eagles, Packers 10-7, and Sunday Night Football for the most part was pretty lousy until the second half. And this was the same thing in the case with last night's game. But I came away with this. And we're going to discuss the Packers' point of view and the Eagles. But my main takeaway that I really have from last night's game, and this was the bigger headline. There was a lot of craziness that went on in last night's game, but this was the bigger headline for me. Did the Packers show their true colors? And this is why. When I was writing and thinking about what the headline I wanted to talk about, one thing that really pointed out and stuck out to me when I watched the game was that offense is bad. To be honest, it just may be a bad marriage. There were moments in this game I was sitting there like, Jordan Love, what was that? Then other times I was like, Matt LaFleur, what was that? And we saw it in a multitude of ways. There was a one play in the second half where Joe Buck and Troy Aikman showed the replay of it, and Romeo Doubs was wide open in the middle of the field in the slot. He ran like a deep in route. But underneath, you had Josh Jacobs and another receiver. I don't know exactly who the other receiver was. I just know it was Josh Jacobs. They ran two drag routes, and they ran into each other. And Jordan Love couldn't see that, so he couldn't see the Romeo Doubs open up the middle because Romeo Doubs ended up getting covered up by Josh Jacobs and the other player ran over into each other. And, Jordan Love had to break the pocket, and he didn't make the big play. That was a moment where I was like, Matt LaFleur, what are we doing? We can go to the 4th and 1 call there at the end of the game. We've got audio of the defensive tackle for the Eagles. He pretty much called the play. He was like, run this way, inside zone this way, inside zone this way. Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs were like, yeah, we heard it. But Jordan Love was specifically like, man, we were very confident in the play. And that's one of the moments where Matt LaFleur I was like, Matt LaFleur, what are we doing? And, there was a couple of instances in the first half, which Jordan Love was absolutely abysmal in the first half. But Jordan Love had a lot of moments in the first half. It's like, Jordan, why are you throwing that ball? Jordan, what are you looking at? He had, in the first half, he had so many wide open receivers. But instead of sitting in the pocket, which is another thing that I'm skeptical about with Jordan Love, when you rattle him, he's not one of them. He's not a Joe Burrow type guy. He's not going to sit in the pocket and stay accurate. When he gets rattled, he gets rattled. So you get him off his spot, he does not process the field well. We saw that last night, and then there were moments where it felt like Matt LaFleur was flabbergasted. And Packers media last night, was absolutely crazy on Twitter yesterday. I was actually shocked with how just wild and crazy the media was about Matt LaFleur needs to get fired, this, and that. And they were showing steals. And ESPN was showing steals and video of Matt LaFleur in the first half going to the tablet. And he's saying over there saying cuss words like, man, you gotta be, and kidding me. Like, Jordan, what are we doing? So, and I came up with this. It feels like Matt LaFleur is feeling the pressure for a multitude of reasons. We had ESPN was given the LaFleur meltdowns behind the scenes, and it made me come up with this idea because you're the Green Bay Packers. You made the Micah Parsons trade, which is essentially an all-in move. You traded away your veteran defensive tackle in Kenny Clark, and now you have Micah Parsons, and you trade away two future first-round picks. So this is your guy. You feel like you have the team. You have the wide receiver core. You got the running back. You got the O-line, the defense. Everything is set. and you have your quarterback. You paid him $50+ million. So the Packers and Brian Gutekunst and everybody involved feel like they have the roster. And Matt LaFleur needs to go out there and perform. But guess what? The Packers are not looking good. And it feels like this marriage with Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love is just not working. This game really signified that Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur are on two separate ends of the spectrum right now. They are not cohesive with one another. Part of me feels like Matt LaFleur still has the training wheels on Jordan Love. He really does. And it shows in the play calling. I mean, you had the stuff with the Micah Parsons trade, the claims of the team going undefeated. All of that is weighing on the shoulders of Matt LaFleur, and it's not going good. Their schedule going forward is absolutely brutal. And you're sitting in your division, third. You're currently seventh in the wild card right now. And record-wise, you're 5-3-1. You've lost back-to-back games to where you can't even score 17 points. Offensively, you've been absolutely abysmal. But defensively, you've been able to play your tail off. Jordan Love yesterday, 20 for 36, 176 yards. 3 sacks. Quarterback rating of 38, passer rating of 68. You can't really weren't able to run the ball well last night. Josh Jacobs had 3.5 yards to carry. And you got no production from your receiving core because you were not able to pass the ball. Granted, they had a couple big drops, but Jordan Love was just not accurate yesterday. And it showed on the field. So ultimately, this is going to go down one way. Either the Packers are going to turn it around, or I really feel there might be a scenario where Matt LaFleur may not be the head coach for the Green Bay Packers next year. I didn't realize this till I was watching First Things First earlier a while ago, roughly 2 or 3 hours ago. The Packers have been the 7th seed for the past 2 years in the playoffs. Like, they have not, ever since Aaron Rodgers left and under the Jordan Love regime, it's not like the Packers have won 12, 13 games. They've won 9, 10, and just sneaking into the playoffs. And it seems like that is going to be the case this year as well. So the offense is bad. And to be honest, in the end, it may end up being a bad marriage. Somebody's going to have to go. And it's definitely not going to be the guy that you gave $50+ million to. This is a win now roster. And if they don't get and make a deep playoff run, it's not going to be good. In no way, shape, form, or fashion for the Green Bay Packers. And that's what I took away from yesterday. You have the defense. But I do not trust Jordan Love at all. And he is, and I've said it for weeks now, Jordan Love is going to be the single reason why and if the Packers make a deep playoff run. And if Jordan Love's play like he did last night, that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be sadly to inform you that isn't going to happen. So that was my takeaway from the Packers' point of view. Now let's move over and shift over to the Philadelphia Eagles. This was pretty much your classic Philadelphia Eagle game. Really was. Philly finds ways to win. But I said this multiple times while I was watching the game. And I brought it up with my dad. I'm sitting here like, Philly was on a bye last week. And I'm very shocked. And I don't understand why the offense was so abysmal last night. Granted, the first drive, they were able to move the ball down the field. And then you had that, unfortunate fumble there in the first drive on the Packers side of the field. Great punch out by Adrian Cooper. But since that moment, they could not move the ball up the field at all. A.J. Brown, another week of A.J. Brown just sitting there collecting space. Smitty, for some reason, seems to be like more the reliable target this year for Jalen Hurts, and he loves to target him way more. And they can't run the football. Saquon Barkley, 2.7 yards a carry yesterday. 60 yards, 22 carries. It's not going to cut it. Jalen Hurts, a classic Jalen Hurts game, 15 to 26, only passed for 183 yards. He had a quarterback rating of 42. Not good. Outside of Devontae Smith and a couple catches from Goddard, they got no production out of the wide receiver core. A.J. Brown had 2 catches for 13 yards. And now defensively, they were able to get to the quarterback. But when you watch this team, I don't see a repeating Super Bowl champion team roster. I don't. When you think about the Eagles and the Krabby Patty formula for Jalen Hurts, and it has been this his entire career, Jalen Hurts has always been successful when he has that run game. Last year, Saquon Barkley rushed for 2,000 yards. This year, not even close to that. Saquon Barkley threw 10 games. Roughly, this is 9 for the Eagles since they had to bye. But through 9 games, Saquon Barkley has only rushed for 579 yards. I don't have it for you, and I can't look it up. He's averaging only 3.9 yards a carry. He only has 4 touchdowns. But I would love to compare last year's numbers to this year's numbers. I imagine Saquon Barkley at this point was already over 1,000 yards. And this season, they have not been able to run the football. I don't think the offensive line is as good this year as it has been. Lane Johnson got rolled up last night. I thought it looked like the same injury that Tucker Kraft had last week against Carolina, but ultimately it was his ankle. I don't know how it was his knee, so that was fantastic news for the Eagles. But for some reason, this team just does not look good. And to give a little quick side note here, the play call near the end of the half by Nick Sirianni was absolutely abysmal and foolish. Nick Sirianni single-handedly was trying to give the Packers that game yesterday. You don't go for it on 4th and 8 and throw a go ball to A.J. Brown. And I understand A.J. Brown is this player that he's had the moments this season where, yeah, he's like your security blanket. You ain't targeting much all game, but he's due for that one big throw to close out the game. I get it. But in that environment last night, it's cold. A.J. Brown hasn't been targeted all game. Does it really feel like A.J. Brown really wanted and probably had the enthusiasm at that moment to try and make a big play like that? A 40-yard bomb down the field? And Valentine and the Packers defense was all over. So I think that was absolutely foolish play by the Packers. Sorry, by the Eagles. But guess what? Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love played even more abysmal and were making even more stupid decisions on offense that it didn't come back to bite them that much. Going forward for Philly, I have to be honest with you. This team doesn't resemble the Eagles of last year. And at some point going into playoffs, you're going to have to score points. You cannot score 10 points going up against good on good and think you're going to repeat as Super Bowl champions. Now, I'm going to give the Eagles just a minor break. I mean, you're in Lambeau Field, Monday Night Football on primetime, and in those conditions, it's hard to go out there and score 34 or 30 points. I got to be totally honest with you, and I'll give him that. But just there's no continuity and consistency in this offense, and I cannot trust the Philadelphia Eagles to just flip the switch all of a sudden offensively, because they had these glaring issues a couple of years ago when they had the supernatural funk, as Chris Broussard liked to describe. Detroit, to me, coming up this week, they got them at home, will be a great test because Detroit can score. So if you're Jalen Hurts and it's not your real strong, I can't say it's not his real strong suit, but you have to show me against an NFC East, not an NFC East, but an NFC contender. Can you do what you did against the Rams? Can you do what you did against Denver? Can you turn it up? Well, no, sorry, not against Denver, just against the Rams. There was another team that they played that I can't quite remember where they came back. I don't know. But I knew specifically it was the Rams. Can you be able to Even if you're down and you're in that point in the game where they need you to be the guy, you need to go and score. Can you be able to do that? That is what I want to see from the Eagles going into next week's matchup against the Lions. Because I tell you one thing, it's going to have to come off the hands of Jalen Hurts and his arm and his playmaking ability if they want to win, because they're not going to be able to run the football. I don't see that changing at any point this year. Just the offense is not the same offensive line. So that is going to be a good test going into their matchup coming up against the Detroit Lions. So that was pretty much my thought process in last night's game. Jordan Love and the Packers, they have to get it together. And they have to get it together real soon, because time's dwindling away. That schedule's getting rough. And you're in a division with the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. 2 contenders. And I have to be quite honest, that draft pick for the Dallas Cowboys is looking sweeter and sweeter by today. But man, my takeaway was the offense is bad for the Packers, and that marriage between Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love may not work, and may not be fixable. And the Eagles, they can find ways to win. But I don't know if that recipe is going to be able to work going forward into the postseason.